Welcome everyone, welcome to another episode of Son of Elijah. My name is Mac the Lion and I'm your host for this program. I welcome you to another episode as we continue our series on the 5 rulers or the 5 kings over South Africa and how to engage them, the engaging process and the principles for defeating them and neutralizing them and bringing them to a place of submission, even as we rise above these things, even as we're establishing the truth of what God has designated for us to do. When I was doing battle in Durban, there was a particular thing I was dealing with that I needed to overcome. So as I was dealing with that spirit, I caught that snake, I caught his head, I caught the head of the snake in the clouds in one of those early mornings, I think in the month of October. And then from there, I now found out that that spirit was representing another entity. So I followed that entity or that line of his drawage in the realm of the spirit. And then I found myself in California. And when I found myself in California, I discovered that there were 3 spirits that were in charge of that mountain or that mindset or that thing I was dealing with. And it had to do with the arts and entertainment. And there were 3 entities that were controlling that whole realm. 3 entities. And the whole of the 3 of them were based out of California. You know, when I got to California in the realm of the spirit, I saw those 3 entities. I saw one specifically that was in charge of pornography, was in charge of obscenity, was in charge of immorality, all sexual addictions. I saw the Playboy mansion this way. I saw that it had its own subtle take that it had unleashed in the 50s using Soft magazine, and a lot of young boys contacted sexual addiction, masturbation, and all kinds of sexual deviances, pornographic, soft porn as they call it, images, girls on their walls and all that. From the Playboy mansion, I saw all that. Then I saw another zip code on this other side that had to do with hardcore pornographic content. And that was movies that were being produced and now pushed out all over the earth, and they were doing their bit, and before you know it, America was covered. But then you have to understand that those spirits have a global influence. Why? Because they have found ways to push their filth non-stop, saturate their immediacy to where now it becomes numb. Now I saw the spirit that was in charge of that and it was doing its thing. Then I saw another spirit. That spirit was in charge of profanity, cursing, using filthy language. I saw that spirit, but wherever that spirit sourced from will be the main place that it drives the agenda. So that means the strength of that spirit will be prevalent there. And now, because since I was chasing a mandate and I was trying to get to the root, because I won't stop until I get to the root of it. So in the realm of the spirit, I chased it down. Then I saw how those 3 spirits positioned themselves. So one specifically was for all the pornographic, smart obscenities, uncladdedness and everything that has to do with the unclean spirit. Then I saw how profanity. So those profanity were very prevalent amongst the comics, those who do stage presentations and tell jokes and all that. And if you notice, that's always the biggest thing that they all need to kiss the ring, because if they won't profane, they can't go big. And there's a reason why, because there's a spirit in charge of, because I saw that spirit. I could even tell you what it does, how it looks like, his name, everything. But I'm not going to do that in this particular session because that is not where I'm going. Then there was a 3rd spirit. That spirit, the spirit that today that is in charge of the LGBT community. So I don't know how they call those, the alphabet mafia as it is called today. So I saw that spirit was there. So listen again and let me re-explain. First, there was a spirit of obscenity that is in charge of all pornographic, all uncleanliness, everything that has to do with sexual, bearing yourself, being naked on screen in any form or way, sexual addiction of any kind, be it of the pedophiliac type, if there be any kind of sexual deviances, be it boy love as they call it, whatever it is, all was citadel with that spirit. Then there was another spirit, that is the spirit of profanity, that is in charge of curse words. Now there is a third spirit. The third spirit is a spirit that is in charge of the LGBTQ. It is the spirit of effeminacy. It is also the spirit that powers the gay agenda and also the trans agenda and all that. So in that particular session I had, I was battling and fighting that spirit. And then it took me to California, as I had explained. And when I got to California, I now saw clearly that this was the spirit that I've been trying to take out. So when I got to that entity, that third spirit is the spirit that is in charge of the LGBTQ community. It's the spirit of effeminacy. It's an artistic spirit. It's a spirit that celebrates color. It's a spirit that celebrates color. It's a spirit that converts color into mud. And I'm not going to go into the depth of that. I will leave that for another day. But I want you to understand something. That was the spirit that was powering the transgender movement, powering the gay agenda of today. Now, when I got to that entity, because that was the main spirit I chased down to that place, I came after that spirit because there was events that had occurred for which now I was trying to deal with those things. And in trying to deal with those things, there were battles. And then those battles, I had to trace it down to the source, and the source took me all the way to California spiritually, but my physical body was still in Durban. So as this battle continued, eventually I was able to get to that spirit, which was the master spirit that was in charge of this. And then I fought that spirit and I defeated it. Now once you defeat a spirit, that spirit has no choice but to submit. And when it submits to you, whatever you ask, that spirit has to tell you. Whatever you want, that spirit has to tell you. Now that spirit can no more contend with you because there's no rematch. And that spirit can no more push back on you. The only thing that spirit can do is to avoid you when it sees you, because now you are raised far above that spirit. You are now operating above his realm. So that spirit operates under you. That's why even though I have defeated those entities in Durban, some others have not. So when they operate in that city, those spirits will still oppress them. Those spirits will still manipulate them. But if I come to that city, those spirits will clear off. If they hear that I'm even on the way, they will get out of town if possible. Because I'm bad news. Why? Because I've beaten them. Why? Because I've subdued them. Why? Because they are now under my feet. In that realm of the spirit, I'm heavier than that spirit. I have more credentials. I've been anointed. I've been appointed of God. And I was able to defeat it. So when I defeated that principality that was in charge of that agenda, then I started asking it questions, because the answers that it gives me is the reason why I came there in the first place. I came there and I can't get answers until they become my subordinate. I have to defeat them. Then anything I ask, they will tell me. And that is it. Now you have to understand the dynamics of this. I was with that entity. And then I started questioning it, having defeated it. And he told me, this is his words, I'm telling you word for word. He said, I was birthed. That's what he said. He said, I was birthed in the 60s. I was birthed in the 60s in UC, University of California, Berkeley. He said, I was birthed in the campground of UC Berkeley in the 60s. He said, that was when I was birthed. He said, that was when I was birthed. So I began to ask, but before then, there have been gay people, there have been people who are trans, or then it was commonly called transvestites, because they like to dress in the opposite sex clothing and all that. So I did not comprehend why it would be saying I was birthed in the 60s. Then it said, what I'm trying to say is this: those people have always been there. But this present movement that you are seeing now, the LGBT, was a different ball game because I had a political agenda. I wanted individuals who profess with this mindset or behavioral be classified as a special class of people, like a protected class. I wanted us to become a protected class, exalted. I wanted us to be elevated. I wanted us to be recognized. I wanted us to have political clout. I wanted us to run over things the way we wanted it. Because before then, there were individuals who had this way of life, but they preferred to be left alone. They preferred to live their way and the way they wanted to do it. But no, I wanted it. I wanted it to become a thing of pride. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be seen. I wanted all men to accept our way of life. I wanted us to become a super class of individuals that can literally shut anyone or anything down just by the fact that we are there. That is what I wanted. He said, so I was born, or I was birthed. That's the word he used. So it is something that you could do a little bit of research on. What does he mean by his birthed? That means he came into existence. He came into existence in the 60s on the grounds of UC Berkeley, University of California, on the campgrounds of University of California, Berkeley, near San Francisco, or in San Francisco, up north of California. He said, I was birthed in those grounds during the time of the free love era. Love who you can, love the way you can, love whatever you want, because love is love. As far as you decide, you can have it. If you want it, if it feels good, you can go ahead and do it. Have it the way you want it. He said that was what we birthed. And because we were born on a foundation of a political mandate, we wanted the laws of the land to be changed to accommodate us. We wanted to be recognized. We wanted to be married like every other person. We wanted all this. And this spirit just kept going on and telling me its agenda. He said, this is what we wanted. This is how we wanted it to be done. This is the things that we wanted. So I was born on these campgrounds amongst the young students, amongst the campus students. He said I was born, that was where. He said I was injected literally in the mind of just one individual, and from there other people joined, and from there it became like an orgy of mindset. So they started driving and beating the drums of recognition, and they wanted to force the political class to admit them into it. That's why they are a mafia today. When you say the LGBT mafia, the alphabet mafia is real. It's by force. If you don't comply, they will do everything to make sure you are cancelled or you are shut down. It's a spirit. And that spirit, I confronted it, I defeated it, and that spirit was literally singing like a canary and told me his history, told me his agenda. This is what we wanted, this is what we wanted, this is what we wanted. And that's why we wanted to sit in the corridors of power. And that's why we wanted individuals who have this behavior, who have this way of life to be in power. I'm not going to go deeper than that, but there are already people who are like this and who have that spirit, who have already ruled some of the biggest nations on the earth, and is still ruling another major one in Europe, and yet have this lifestyle, and yet is hidden. And even much, and he's not the only one. They said that was my agenda. That was what I was sent to do by Satan himself. That was my agenda, and we had to enforce it. That's why we needed the help of the spirit of the Antichrist, which is the spirit that forces men to change laws to conform to what we want. That's why if you go to the book of Revelation, he says when he comes, he says shall change laws. The changing of the laws to accommodate them. That's why they want even it in the Supreme Court of America to be changed, because America is the most powerful and the most influential nation on the earth. And if you can get them to conform their laws to accommodate the spirit, then they can succeed in making it a global enterprise. That's why small nations like Uganda, nations like Ghana, when they passed laws, Nigeria, when they passed laws against this entity, you could see that Western nations say, we are going to do this, we are going to do that, we are going to limit you, we are going to hold back aid and all that. That is the power and the force of that spirit. And that spirit was telling me this, I think this was 2014, if my record bears me clear, because I knew where exactly I was when I did it, and I was in that building for 2 years. I was there. I came in 2013 in February, and I left in February of 2015. So I stayed there for 2 years, and it was in the course of that I fought that spirit. I knew the morning I saw that, the head of that spirit, and then I saw its 3 splinters of entities that controls literally that industry, and all that industry is all in similitude. So that spirit had a political agenda. It wanted to rule in leadership. It wanted to change laws. It wanted to corrupt the educational system. It wanted to corrupt the children. That spirit was just mounting off and telling me. He said one of the reasons why it was birthed in a campus is because we wanted to use the educational platform to infiltrate and communicate and corrupt the younger generation. because education was the perfect place to do it. And using their teachers and using their caregivers who were not giving custody of the children but were just giving the time to educate them, we will be able to infiltrate their minds and literally corrupt them. That's why right there in San Francisco, they released a song about 3 years ago and said, see, we wanted to corrupt your children. And that's why every time they were pushing for a political agenda, every time they were pushing through the corridors of power, wanted the laws of the land to be changed in order to make it legal for same-sex marriage. Every time they pushed the agenda, they always made it very clear this was what they wanted. Love is love, and that was the same language of the 60s in Berkeley. Now, during the time of that movement, that's what that spirit wanted. And that was how it pushed through. And then when they went to Washington and places like that, and they were pushing and goading and trying to force what they wanted, it was very difficult. So when there were senators who came out and said, no, this thing cannot have a national footing. There are people who have this lifestyle, they've kept it private, go back to how you live and do your thing. Nobody wants to know who you're sleeping with, who you are doing, whatever you are doing with privately is none of our business. They say, no, we want to come out of the closet. We want to have pride days. We want to be able to walk through the streets and celebrate what we believe is our own belief system. They wanted all this. And in that encounter, I saw that they kept pushing, because as he's explaining it, I'm seeing everything. So he explains everything that happens in Washington and all that. And he kept saying that every time we spoke to any senator or anyone and they said, no, we will not be a part of it, and even if it comes to the House, I'm not going to vote for it. I don't care what it is. We are not going to change the laws of the land to accommodate same-sex marriage. And they always used to say, but how about if your child is going to be gay? How about if your child becomes gay? Then what do you do then? So when they were saying that, they were literally trying to say, our agenda is simple. We will get your kids to be gay, and then we will force you and change your mind eventually, because we know what we are doing. We've gotten the educational system to bow to our whims. So that was what that spirit was saying. But then the spirit now told me, but we had a problem. The problem was that I was so sure that in Los Angeles, where we were already fully represented by those who were practicing all kinds of immoral behavior, be it pornographic content, be it sexual fetishes, be it BDSM, be it all kinds of sexual madness, all kinds of heterosexual but excessive sexual addictions on rampage, or selling pornography, everything. He said all those who were already indulging in all forms of behavior. And then of course we have the PEDs, those who were doing that, the boy love, they were there too. He said, so I was convinced that I would be able to gain traction there. He said, so I moved down to Los Angeles. I came from the north or the northeast of California, and I came down all the way to Los Angeles expecting that it will be able to gain traction. He said, but unfortunately, they did not accept it. He said they wanted whatever they were doing to remain the way it was. They were not interested in anything political. They wanted to be indulging in their debaucherous behavior, but they wanted to do it privately. If they wanted to have sex parties, it was their business. If they wanted to do orgies, they did it privately. If it was anything of whatever they were doing that was unclean and untoward behavior, they had ways to skirt around the law and get what they wanted. So they were doing it, but they did not want their faces to be attached to a bunch of people coming out publicly and saying this is what we do and want to be a part of it. So that spirit was now telling me that those people in Los Angeles refused to give it traction because they were not interested. And now, why did he really need them to recognize his traction? Very simple. Because without that spirit cannot have his crown. Remember the vision I told you when those 5 entities came out of the waters, they had a crown. The crowning comes from the people. The people are the ones that crown you. The crown is the mindset, the mentality of the people to now accept that way of life, having been deceived, and now indulge in it and accept it as a norm of functionality for them, without any fear, without any shame to such behavior. And as a result of that, it is now second nature to them. So they believe strongly that this is how God made or created them to be. That is the height of that deception. And with that level of inkling, they are able to function with that level of adaptation, understanding exactly what they are doing, and now knowing that they are doing this, then it now spreads. And with that spread, the enemy now has a large swath over the minds of people. And as a result of that, he gains his golden crown. You see, all those principalities want their golden crown, because the golden crown means that not only are you enthroned in this region, I'm able to control them. Without the golden crown, you cannot control them. Why gold? Because gold represents intrinsic nature. So it becomes your intrinsic nature. And once something becomes your intrinsic nature, it becomes natural to you. So when you speak about it, you will even tell somebody, I was born exactly that way. God created me that way because it's natural. I find myself not only doing it, it is very organic, it's very natural. So that is how the entities are crowned. So we leave it at that. Thank you for watching this episode of Son of Elijah. My name is Mac the Lion, and I've been your host. I hope you were able to make sense of that which I was communicating. I actually intend to continue this series and bring us even closer to the depth of understanding the principles of victory over the forces and installations that are working night and day to control the lives and micromanage the destinies of people. We have an innate determination to have the victory that God has scheduled for us. And that victory is not just mine alone, but for everyone that shall be a part and a parcel of that which has been placed before us. Thank you for watching. My name is Mac the Lion. Please do like our page. Please do like our channel. Please do share it so that the algorithm can also pick up on it and present it to more people with more opportunities to jump into that which we have. I'm so glad that I'm here to serve you and to see to it that you receive even more of that which I bring to the table. Thank you for watching this episode of Son of Elijah. Please also feel free to be a part of what we do. If you also want to give in any formal way to this program, Son of Elijah, please kindly do so by following the link that you will find below, right down there at the PayPal button. You are very free to do as God may lay in your heart. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.